I just reconnected with my ex-best friend after 10 years, and what they did has made me angrier than ever before. My old friend lied in court to take my family. Now, a decade later, I just found out he's been hurting my daughter, and I'm prepared to do whatever it takes. 10 years ago, my ex-wife and I were fighting over custody of our daughter after our marriage fell apart. The whole ordeal was a mess, but nothing prepared me for the treachery that unfolded in the courtroom. My closest friend, a guy I'd known since high school, suddenly took the witness stand. I felt a wave of relief at first, sure he was there to support me. Instead, he looked me in the eyes and started to cry, claiming he'd seen me viciously shake my daughter during a fit of rage. My jaw dropped. It felt like a terrible dream. He then presented doctored text messages and video snippets of me and my daughter, twisting our happy memories to portray me as an abusive monster. I glanced at my ex-wife, who was shedding fake tears as if every word he spoke was true. The judge's gaze was full of disgust. Even my lawyer was caught off guard, looking at me with doubt when I told him the evidence was fabricated. That day, I lost everything, no visits, no calls, nothing. When I walked out of the courthouse, I could barely breathe. I went home and drank myself into a stupor. In my drunken state, I called my former friend, slurring my words and demanding to know why he ruined my life. All I got was his cold, arrogant laughter. "I've wanted your wife for so long," he told me bluntly. "You know how obsessed I can get when I'm in love." Then my ex-wife got on the phone, her voice dripping with cruelty. "He'll be a better father than you ever were," she sneered. "You'll never see your daughter again." I started to cry, pleading with them to say it was a prank, but she just rubbed salt in the wound. She told me they had been secretly involved for 2 years, meticulously planning to take my daughter from me. The entire thing was a coordinated lie to ruin my life. I was crushed. I should have faced them, but I didn't. I moved away and began a new life, but I never gave up hope. I kept sending my daughter birthday cards, letters, and presents, hoping she would know her dad loved her. But I never received a reply. My ex had told me herself that she was telling our daughter I had mistreated her when she was a baby, and I knew she was lying to her about me. I was on the verge of accepting that she would never truly know me, but then, 10 years later, a phone call changed everything. A hospital in my old city said my daughter had been in a car accident and that my name was listed as her emergency contact. My heart nearly burst. Why was I her emergency contact? I didn't ask. I just drove there immediately, my hands shaking the entire way. When I entered the waiting room, my ex-wife and former best friend looked shocked, clearly not expecting to see me. The atmosphere was incredibly tense. My ex quietly got up and went to the doctors, presumably to warn them, leaving me alone with him. I didn't say a word, and then he began to speak. At first, he seemed emotional, almost like he might apologize. But what he said next made my blood run cold. He admitted with a malicious tone that he had never given my daughter any of my letters or gifts. He laughed about convincing her I had abandoned her, but just when I thought it couldn't get worse, he changed his attitude. A fake sadness seeped into his words, as if he were the victim. "I'll admit it," he said, putting on a preachy act. "I neglected her. Kids are a lot of work, you know how it is. I'm not proud, but there were times she needed a good smack. Honestly, I'm doing you a favor by letting you back in her life now. She's a mess. You should thank me." I felt my body on the verge of exploding. Every part of me wanted to lash out at him right then and there. But before I could react, a small, weak voice called out from behind a slightly ajar curtain. My daughter was awake, watching us. Her eyes were full of pain and confusion. I rushed to her, my heart beating so loudly I could barely hear anything else. The next few moments felt like a dream. My daughter, Lily, was lying there with a bandage on her head and her arm in a cast. She looked so much like the little girl I remembered but was now 16 years old. Her eyes were the same as mine, a deep brown with specks of amber that caught the light. Her hair was longer than I remembered, flowing over her shoulders in waves that reminded me of her mother before everything went wrong. I couldn't believe I was finally seeing her. "Dad," she whispered, her voice fragile. That single word almost shattered me. I hadn't heard her call me that in 10 years. I wanted to hug her, but was scared of hurting her more. I just stood there, frozen, with tears streaming down my face. The sterile smell of the hospital room faded as I focused only on her face, trying to memorize every detail in case this moment was taken from me again. My ex-wife, Denise, rushed back with a nurse. She tried to position herself between me and Lily. The nurse checked Lily's vitals while Denise glared at me, her face aged with lines of resentment around her mouth that hadn't been there before. "I'm not leaving," I said. "The hospital called me. I'm still her father." My voice was more stable than I expected, drawing strength from Lily's presence. My former friend, Russell, joined us, putting his hand on Denise's shoulder like he owned her. The gesture made me sick. He had gained weight over the years. His once athletic body was now soft and intimidating. His eyes still held that deceitful gleam I'd been too blind to see when we were friends. "Let's not cause a scene," he said with that phony, concerned voice. "This isn't about us. It's about Lily." The nurse finished checking Lily's monitors and turned to us all. "She needs to rest. Only immediate family should stay." She was young, probably new to navigating family drama. Denise immediately pointed at me. "He's not family anymore." Her voice was sharp, cutting through the air. The nurse looked confused. I pulled out my wallet and showed her my ID. "I'm her biological father." The hospital called me as her emergency contact. My hands were shaking a little as I held out my driver's license. This seemed to surprise the nurse. She looked at Lily, who was watching the whole exchange with wide eyes. "Lily, who would you like to stay with you?" Denise cut in before Lily could speak. "She's a minor. I make the decisions." Her knuckles were white as she gripped the side rail of Lily's bed. "I want my dad," Lily said calmly but firmly. The shock on Denise and Russell's faces was priceless. They clearly hadn't expected this. The nurse nodded and started guiding them out. Denise tried to object, but the nurse was firm. "The patient has asked for privacy with her father. Please respect that." Once they were gone, I pulled a chair next to Lily's bed. The vinyl creaked as I sat down. We sat in silence for a moment. I had practiced what I would say to her 1,000 times over the years, but now my mind was blank. The steady beep of her heart monitor punctuated the quiet between us. "They told me you left us," she finally said. "That you didn't want me." Her voice was small, carrying the weight of a decade of abandonment. My heart shattered all over again. "That's not true, Lily," I said. "I've thought about you every day. I sent cards, letters, and presents." I swallowed hard, fighting back a fresh wave of tears. "I never got anything," she said, tears forming in her eyes. One escaped, trickling down her cheek. I wanted to wipe it away, but wasn't sure if I should touch her yet. "I know. I just found out they kept everything from you." I clenched my fists in my lap, anger mixing with my sadness. Lily looked down at her hands. The 4 tubes snaked from her arm to a machine beside the bed. "I heard what Russell said to you about hitting me. Has he hurt you, Lily?" I asked gently. She didn't answer directly. Instead, she asked, "Did you really hurt me when I was little? Mom always said you had anger issues."
"No, Lily.
"Never. I would never hurt you." "They lied in court. Russell made up stories to help your mom get full custody." I leaned forward, desperate for her to believe me. "Why would they do that?" she asked. I sighed. "Russell wanted your mom. They were together before the divorce." Saying it out loud still made my stomach turn. "I found some old pictures of you in the attic last month. Mom always said you were dangerous, but you looked so normal, happy. You were holding me and smiling. It didn't match what they told me." She picked at the edge of her blanket, a nervous habit I remembered from when she was a child. "What else did you find?" I asked, my heart racing. "Letters in a box with my name on it. They were all opened." "From you?" She looked up at me, her eyes searching mine. "You found my letters?" I could barely get the words out. She nodded. "That's why I put you as my emergency contact. I memorized your number from one of the letters." I wasn't sure if it was still good, but before I could reply, a doctor came in. He introduced himself as Dr. Stevens and explained Lily's injuries: a concussion, a broken arm, and some bruising. She was lucky. The car had hit a tree, but the airbags deployed correctly. He was middle-aged with kind eyes that seemed to understand more than he was saying. "Who was driving when the accident happened?" I asked. She shook her head. "Russell was. He was angry, driving too fast." Her voice trembled slightly as she recalled it. The doctor looked uncomfortable. "We've noted that in her chart. There are some concerns about the home situation that we need to address." He glanced meaningfully at me. I nodded, understanding what he was implying. "I'm her father. I want to help." My voice was firm, resolute. After he left, Lily reached for my hand. Her touch was hesitant, as if she wasn't sure if she was allowed. Her fingers were cold against my palm. "Will you stay?" "As long as you want me to," I promised. We talked for almost an hour. She told me about school, her friends, and her life. She liked art and wanted to study design one day. She had a close friend named Emma who stuck by her even when things were bad at home. I shared stories about when she was a little girl, memories she didn't have, how she used to insist on wearing rain boots even on sunny days, how she once tried to set all the goldfish free at a pet store because she thought they looked sad. It felt surreal, like I might wake up any moment and find this was all a dream. Eventually, a nurse came to check on Lily again and mentioned that visiting hours would be ending soon. I didn't want to leave, but I knew I couldn't push too hard, too fast. "I'll be back first thing tomorrow," I promised. She looked worried. "What if they don't let you?" The fear in her voice broke my heart all over again. "I'll figure something out," I said. "I'm not disappearing again." I stood up reluctantly, already dreading the separation. As I was leaving, I ran into Russell in the hallway. He blocked my path, his bulk taking up most of the corridor. "Having a nice reunion?" he sneered. "Don't get used to it." His breath smelled of coffee and cigarettes. "I know what you did," I said, keeping my voice low. "Lily told me everything." He shrugged. "Prove it. Nobody's going to believe you now, just like nobody believed you then." His arrogant confidence made my skin crawl. "She found my letters, Russell. She knows you've been lying to her for years." Something flashed in his eyes. Worry, maybe? "She's confused from the accident. Once she's home, things will go back to normal." "She's not going back to your home," I said firmly. "Not after what you've done." He stepped closer. "Watch yourself. One call to the police about you harassing us, and you'll never see her again." His voice was low and threatening. Outside the hospital, I sat in my car for a long time, my mind racing. I needed a plan. I couldn't lose Lily again. Not now that she knew the truth. I called my old lawyer and left a message explaining the situation. Then I found a nearby hotel and checked in. That night, I could barely sleep. I kept thinking about Lily in that hospital bed, about what might happen when she was discharged. Would Denise and Russell take her home and cut me off again? Would they punish her for contacting me? The next morning, I was back at the hospital as soon as visiting hours started. To my relief, neither Denise nor Russell was there yet. Lily was awake, looking better than the day before. Some color had returned to her cheeks, and she smiled when she saw me. "You came back," she said, sounding surprised. "Of course I did," I replied, sitting beside her bed. "I promised, didn't I?" We talked more, filling in the 10-year gap between us. She asked about where I live now, my job, and if I had a new family. I told her everything. "After I found your letters, things got worse," she said. "Russell found out I was looking through the attic. He got really mad." She twisted the hospital bracelet around her wrist nervously. "Did he hurt you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. She nodded slightly. "He grabbed my arm really hard. Left bruises." "It wasn't the first time?" She pulled up her sleeve, showing me fading yellowish marks on her upper arm. "The doctors saw them yesterday. They asked a lot of questions." "They're going to help us, Lily," I said. "We'll make sure you're safe." "They will?" she asked. I assured her, though I wasn't certain myself. "And I believe you. I'm not going anywhere this time." I sat with Lily for hours that day, only stepping out when the nurses came to check on her. Around noon, I went to grab some food from the cafeteria. The hospital food was exactly what you'd expect: bland sandwiches and coffee that tasted like it had been sitting out since morning. I was halfway through a turkey sandwich when I spotted Denise entering the cafeteria. She saw me and froze for a second before marching over to my table. "What do you think you're doing?" she hissed, keeping her voice low enough that the elderly couple at the next table couldn't hear. Her hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, making her face look sharper than I remembered. I kept eating my sandwich, trying to stay calm. "I'm visiting my daughter in the hospital. Pretty normal dad stuff." "You're not her dad anymore. You haven't been for 10 years. She leaned in closer. "You need to leave now." I put my sandwich down and looked her straight in the eyes. "Lily wants me here, and I'm not going anywhere." Denise's face flushed red. "She doesn't know what she wants. She's confused from the accident. She found the letters, Denise." I watched her face carefully. "She knows you've been lying to her for a split second." I saw panic in her eyes before she regained her composure. Those letters were from a dangerous man who couldn't control his temper. I was protecting her. I shook my head. "You can keep spinning that story, but Lily's old enough now to see through it." Denise grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. "Listen to me. You walk away now, or I'll make sure you regret coming back." I pulled my arm away. "Like you did 10 years ago? I'm not that same guy anymore, Denise. I'm not running this time." She stood up straight, smoothing her blouse. "Russell will be here soon. He's not as patient as I am." "Yeah, I heard all about his patience from Lily. Sounds like he's got quite the temper." I emphasized the last word, throwing her own accusations back at her. Her eyes narrowed. "You don't know anything about our family." "I know enough," I replied, gathering my trash. "And so does the hospital staff." I walked away, leaving her standing there. My heart was pounding, but I felt stronger than I had in years. I wasn't going to let them intimidate me this time. When I got back to Lily's room, a social worker was there talking to her. She introduced herself as Amber Wilson from Child Protective Services. She was young, probably in her early 30s, with kind eyes behind professional-looking glasses. "Mr. Carter, I'm glad you're here," she said, extending her hand. "I'd like to speak with you as well." I shook her hand, trying not to look as nervous as I felt. "Of course." Amber explained that the hospital had reported concerns about Lily's home situation based on comments she'd made to the medical staff and the circumstances of the accident. She was doing a preliminary assessment. "Lily has shared some concerning information about her home life," Amber said carefully. "I understand you haven't been in the picture for some time. I nodded, glancing at Lily, who was watching us intently. Not by choice. I lost custody when she was 6. Her mother and her mother's husband kept us apart. I see. Amber made a note on her tablet. And you're back in contact now because of the accident? Yes. I was listed as her emergency contact. I still couldn't believe Lily had done that. Amber turned to Lily. And you put your father as your emergency contact recently? Lily nodded. Last month after I found his letters. Amber asked a few more questions, mostly directed at Lily about Russell's behavior, the accident, and how things were at home. Lily answered honestly, describing Russell's angry outbursts, how he'd grab her arm hard enough to leave bruises, and how he'd been drinking before the accident. He was yelling at me about something stupid, Lily explained. I forgot to put away the dishes or something. He said we were going for a drive to talk about my attitude. He was driving way too fast, and I told him to slow down. That just made him madder. Amber nodded, her face professional, but I could see the concern in her eyes. What happened next? He turned to yell at me, and didn't see the curve coming. We went off the road. Lily's voice was steady, but her hands were trembling. The car hit a tree. He wasn't wearing his seatbelt. I was. I felt sick imagining it. Lily could have been killed because of that jerk's temper. Amber asked me a few more questions about my current living situation, my job, and my relationship with Lily. I answered everything honestly. I had a stable job as an IT specialist, a decent 2-bedroom apartment, and while I hadn't been allowed to be part of Lily's life, I never stopped trying. I'm going to need to speak with Mrs. Carter, sorry, Mrs. Wilson, and her husband as well, Amber said, standing up. In the meantime, Lily will remain here at the hospital for at least another day for observation. After she left, I sat next to Lily's bed again. You okay? She nodded, but I could tell she was worried. What's going to happen now? I don't know exactly, I admitted. But I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you're safe. Mom's going to be so mad. Lily picked at her blanket again. She hates when people know our private business. This isn't about her, I said gently. It's about keeping you safe. We spent the rest of the afternoon watching bad TV and talking. I learned that Lily was really into photography, that she had a small group of close friends, and that she wanted to travel someday. It was strange and wonderful getting to know this person who was both my little girl and a complete stranger. Around dinner time, a nurse came in to tell me that Lily's mother and stepfather were here and wanted to see her. Lily immediately tensed up. I don't want to see them, she said firmly. The nurse looked uncomfortable. They're insisting. They are her legal guardians. I stood up. It's okay. I'll go talk to them. Lily grabbed my hand. Don't leave me alone with them. I won't, I promised. I'll be right back. I found Denise and Russell in the waiting area. Russell looked worse for wear, with a bandage on his forehead and a neck brace. Good, I thought, and then immediately felt guilty for thinking it. We want to see our daughter, Denise said immediately. The nurse said you're in there. Lily doesn't want to see you right now, I replied, keeping my voice level. She's still recovering. Russell stepped forward, wincing slightly. You don't get to make that call. We're her parents. I'm her parent too, I said. And she specifically asked not to see you. This is ridiculous, Denise snapped. You show up after 10 years, and suddenly you're father of the year? I didn't show up. I was called because my daughter was in an accident. An accident that happened because I nodded toward Russell, was driving angry and drunk. Russell's face darkened. You don't know what you're talking about. Actually, I do. Lily told me everything. She told the doctors everything. She told the social worker everything that got their attention. Denise's eyes widened. What's social worker? From CPS. She was here earlier. Apparently, the hospital had some concerns about how Lily got those bruises on her arms. I crossed my arms, standing my ground. Russell took another step toward me, his face inches from mine. You called CPS on us, you son of a— I didn't call anyone, I interrupted. The hospital did. Standard procedure when they suspect abuse. Denise put her hand on Russell's arm, pulling him back. There's been a misunderstanding. Lily is clumsy, always has been. She falls a lot. That's not what she says, I replied. And I believe her. Russell jabbed a finger at my chest. You think anyone's going to take your side after what you did? I didn't do anything, I said firmly. You both know that. You made it all up to take Lily away from me. Prove it, Russell sneered. It's your word against ours, and we have the court records to back us up. A nurse approached us, looking concerned. Is everything all right here? Fine, Denise said quickly, plastering on a fake smile. We're just having a family discussion. The nurse didn't look convinced. Well, please keep your voices down. This is a hospital. After she walked away, Denise turned back to me. We're going to see our daughter now. She doesn't want to see you, I repeated. And after what Russell did, putting her in the hospital, I don't blame her. That was an accident, Russell growled. Driving drunk with your kid in the car isn't an accident. It's a crime. I stood my ground, not backing down. Denise's face hardened. You're making a big mistake coming back like this. We built a life without you. Lily doesn't need you swooping in now, confusing her. She found my letters, Denise. She knows I never abandoned her. I watched her face carefully. She knows you've been lying to her for years. Something flickered in Denise's eyes. Fear, maybe? Those letters were from a dangerous man. I was protecting her. No, you were protecting yourself and your boyfriend here. I nodded toward Russell. But it's over now. Lily knows the truth. Russell stepped forward again, but Denise held him back. This isn't over, she warned. Not by a long shot. They left, and I returned to Lily's room feeling shaken but determined. When I told her what happened, she looked relieved that she didn't have to see them. They'll be back, she said quietly. They always come back angrier after something like this. I won't let them hurt you. I promised, though I wasn't entirely sure how I'd keep that promise. That night, I slept in the chair next to Lily's bed. It was uncomfortable, but there was no way I was leaving her alone in that hospital. Around midnight, I woke up to find her watching me. You're still here? She whispered, sounding surprised. Of course I am, I whispered back. I told you I'm not going anywhere. She smiled a little, then went back to sleep. I stayed awake for a long time after that, watching her breathe, still amazed that I'd found her again. The next morning, Dr. Stevens came by to check on Lily. He seemed pleased with her progress and mentioned she might be discharged the following day. Where will she go? I asked, voicing the question that had been keeping me up all night. Dr. Stevens glanced at Lily, then back at me. That's something you'll need to discuss with CPS. Miss Wilson mentioned she'd be back this morning. Sure enough, Amber from CPS arrived about an hour later. She asked to speak with me privately, so we stepped out into the hallway. I've spoken with Mrs. Wilson and Mr. Peterson, she said, referring to Denise and Russell. They deny any abuse, of course. Of course they do, I muttered. However, Amber continued, the hospital has documented Lily's injuries, including bruising patterns inconsistent with the car accident, and Mr. Peterson's blood alcohol level was above the legal limit when they were brought in. My heart raced. So what happens now? Given the circumstances, we're recommending Lily be placed in temporary alternative housing while we investigate further. Amber adjusted her glasses. Do you have a place where she could stay? I blinked, surprised. With me? Yes, absolutely. I have a spare bedroom in my apartment. You'd need to undergo an emergency home assessment, but given that you're her biological father with no documented history of abuse.
She paused.
Wait, there was something in the file about a custody case. My stomach dropped.
10 years ago, yes.
My ex-wife and her boyfriend, now husband, made false accusations. I lost custody. Amber frowned. That complicates things. We'll need to review those records. They lied, I said desperately. Russell admitted it to me at the hospital. They wanted Lily for themselves, so they made up stories about me. I understand, but I need to follow protocol. Amber's voice was sympathetic but firm. In the meantime, we need to find a safe placement for Lily. Please, I said. She wants to be with me. She's the one who put me as her emergency contact. She found my letters and realized they'd been lying to her all these years. Amber considered this. Let me make some calls. We might be able to arrange a temporary placement with you, pending a full investigation, but I can't make any promises. After she left, I went back to Lily's room and explained the situation as gently as I could. She looked terrified at the thought of going back to Denise and Russell. I won't let that happen, I promised. Even if you can't stay with me right away, they won't send you back there while CPS is investigating. Where would I go? She asked, her voice small. Maybe a temporary foster home, just until they sort everything out? I tried to sound more confident than I felt. Lily's eyes filled with tears. I just found you again. I don't want to go to strangers. I held her hand, feeling helpless. I know, sweetheart. I'm doing everything I can. Later that afternoon, Amber returned with news. She'd spoken to her supervisor and reviewed the hospital reports. Given the circumstances, they were willing to place Lily with me temporarily while they investigated further. I'd need to submit to a background check and home assessment, but they could expedite the process. Really? Lily's face lit up for the first time since I'd arrived at the hospital. Amber nodded. It's not permanent yet. There will be follow-up visits and interviews, but for now, yes, you can stay with your father when you're discharged. I could have hugged her. Thank you. Thank you so much. After Amber left, Lily and I started making plans. I need to get some things for her room, figure out school arrangements, all the practical details I'd missed out on for 10 years. It was overwhelming, but in the best possible way. Our planning was interrupted when a nurse came in looking uncomfortable. Mr. Carter, there's a police officer here who wants to speak with you. My heart sank. Had Denise and Russell called the police on me somehow? I followed the nurse out to find a uniformed officer waiting. He introduced himself as Officer Jenkins, a middle-aged man with a serious expression. "I understand you're Lily Carter's father," he asked. I nodded, trying to stay calm. "Yes, that's right. I need to ask you some questions about the accident and the events leading up to it." His tone was professional, giving nothing away. I explained that I hadn't been there, that I'd only arrived after being called as Lily's emergency contact. Officer Jenkins took notes, then asked about my relationship with Lily and her mother. "We've been estranged for 10 years, I admitted. Her mother and stepfather kept us apart." "And how did you feel about that?" he asked, watching me carefully. "Devastated," I answered honestly. "I never wanted to lose my daughter. I've been trying to contact her for years." Officer Jenkins nodded. "Mr. Peterson claims you've been harassing the family, that you showed up here making threats." I shook my head. "That's not true. The hospital called me because Lily listed me as her emergency contact. I haven't had any contact with them in years." "He says you threatened him in the waiting room yesterday." "I didn't threaten anyone," I insisted. "We had a conversation. It was tense, but there were no threats." Officer Jenkins made another note. "Are you aware that Mr. Peterson is claiming you coached Lily to make false allegations against him?" My blood boiled. That's ridiculous. I hadn't spoken to Lily in 10 years until I got here. She told the doctors about the abuse before I even arrived. "I understand," Officer Jenkins said, his expression neutral. "I'm just following up on the report." "What report?" I asked, suddenly worried. "Mr. Peterson filed a complaint this morning. He's claiming you're trying to alienate his stepdaughter from him and his wife." Officer Jenkins closed his notebook. "Given the circumstances, I'd advise you to be careful about making any accusations without evidence." "The evidence is all over Lily's body," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "And in the hospital's blood test showing Russell was drunk when he crashed the car with my daughter in it." Officer Jenkins nodded. "Those matters are being investigated separately. For now, I'm just giving you a heads up. This situation could get complicated." After he left, I leaned against the wall, trying to process what had just happened. Russell was trying to flip the script, painting me as the manipulative one. It was exactly what he'd done 10 years ago, and it had worked then. I went back to Lily's room, trying to hide my worry. She saw through it immediately. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Was that about me?" I sat down beside her. "Russell filed a police report. He's claiming I'm manipulating you into making false accusations against him." Lily's face hardened. "That's what he always does. Turns everything around so he's the victim." "I know," I said. "But this time we have evidence, the hospital records, the blood test. And you're old enough now that people will listen to you." "I'm scared," she admitted. "What if they make me go back?" "They won't," I promised, hoping I was right. "CPS is on our side. The doctors are on our side. We just need to stick to the truth." That evening, Amber returned with more paperwork for me to fill out. She mentioned that Denise and Russell had been difficult during their interview, making accusations against me and claiming Lily was making up stories for attention. "It's not uncommon for abusers to deflect blame," Amber said matter-of-factly. "We're proceeding with a temporary placement with you, but be prepared. They're not going to make this easy." "I never expected them to," I replied, signing the last form. "But I'm not backing down this time." The next morning, Dr. Stevens cleared Lily for discharge. Her arm was still in a cast, and she had some lingering bruises, but she was well enough to leave. A nurse brought in a wheelchair, hospital policy for all discharged patients. "Ready to go home?" I asked, helping her gather the few things she had. Lily smiled. "Home. That sounds nice." As I wheeled her toward the exit, I spotted Denise and Russell waiting near the hospital doors. My heart sank. Lily saw them too and grabbed my hand. "Don't let them take me," she whispered. "I won't," I promised, continuing forward. Denise stepped in front of the wheelchair, blocking our path. "Where do you think you're going with our daughter?" "I'm taking Lily home," I said firmly. "CPS has approved a temporary placement with me." Russell moved beside Denise, his face red with anger. "Like hell they have. She's coming home with us." A security guard noticed the confrontation and started walking over. I was grateful for the backup. "It's been arranged," I said calmly. "You can take it up with CPS if you have concerns." "This is kidnapping," Denise hissed. "You can't just take her." "It's not kidnapping," I replied. "It's a legal placement approved by Child Protective Services. Now, please move aside." The security guard reached us. "Is there a problem here?" "This man is trying to take my daughter," Denise said immediately, putting on her victim voice. I pulled out the paperwork Amber had given me. "I have,"